G'day fellas, and welcome to another casted game. Spawning in the west of the map, playing in the color red, and on the Chinese civilization, it is of course, the Viper. And his opponent who spawns opposite him, you know him as Lucifron. He'll be playing the Mongols for us today in the color blue, and we'll be taking a look at exactly how he spawns off on this map. Now, this map is, of course, Dynasty River. I apologize in advance for the pronunciation of that. I think it's pronounced Dynasty River, but anyway, we're not going to be talking too much about the name of the map. I've probably already triggered a whole bunch of you guys, so apologies for doing that, but we'll be focusing on exactly what it is they get up to in the early game here. I suspect there's probably going to be a lot of action, so for anybody unfamiliar with the way that hybrid maps work, it's all about controlling the fish. And we can already see that Lucifron has found some fish up here towards the north, and he's going to be expanding up there. There are additional south fish spots, so Viper could look to take advantage of that. His scout does move out in that direction, with his villager actually coming out in that direction as well. So whether we actually see that that Viper manages to find that fish, he's going to try and look to expand away from his opponent, because obviously he will realize that in the early game, the Mongols are definitely the S-tier civ when it comes to fighting on water, or at least fighting against any potential water expansion. So let's talk a little bit about the way that we can expect this to go. So if Lucifron manages to find this expansion down towards the south, you can expect that he is going to be aggressive on it. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if we already don't see a barracks that is going to be coming down very, very shortly on this. You can see he's got villagers rallied over here. And the reason why is just because Lucifron would be looking to control that early boom and make sure that Viper doesn't really get to experience a full boom as a result of that. So we'll have to look how he plays it out. You can see the way that he's scouting at the moment. He's spotted in here all of the wood gatherers, and undoubtedly he's going to look to capitalize on that. So we can see now coming around, he does spot these over on this side. He would know he is 100% on wood right now, because he's looking to do some form of boat boom. So that is his thinking at the moment. So we'll have a look at what his response is, and it's a barracks. So you can see that that is the response. You can see that he is rallying over towards this direction. He doesn't know where the dock is. For all he knows, it could be up here, hidden away. But he will go through, he will check that, and he will find that dock, and he is going to take it out. At least that's his plan for the early game. Now, the reason why the Mongols are so strong in the early game at doing this is because this whole time their UFU has been gathering up free resources. And, well, it's not free. I mean, you got to pay 150 wood for it, so, you know, technically not free. But part of that is that you can essentially trade that stone in that you've been gathering up the entire time for double production, which means you don't actually have to make two barracks to produce, you know, 2 sets of spearmen. You just need 1. And that's what makes the Mongols so strong, because they will, all he's going to be producing is probably 4 spears. That's all he's really going to need. I expect we won't see any more than that, but it will depend on the response coming out from the Viper and what he scouts. Obviously, Viper knows that there's not really much he can do about Mongol aggression in the early game, but he can try and fight it. One of the things I've been doing when I'm playing against the Mongols is actually looking to tower up my side, exactly like Viper has done here. But the main difference I make is I bring out a villager or 2 extra and get them out here on shorefish as well. And then that way I've got extra units that I can put in this tower, and then it's not so easy to burn through. But now Viper is going to get found out down here towards the south. Lucifron obviously realizing that Viper was going to dock up this side, but then he's had a change of heart. He moved down towards the south, and the reason why is because Viper wants to get close to these shorefish so that he's able to protect them with both the tower, and he's able to protect the villager. And most importantly, he's actually able to gather up with that villager, because if it's over on the other side, he's going to just have to run it back. So a smart decision from him. And now we spot Lucifron beginning to push out with those spears. A total of 6 spears out so far, so we'll have to see whether he's looking to get more out. 8 spears going to be coming out. He's used up all of his stone at the moment. He's actually got enough for a second batch. Let's see if he cancels. He does cancel it. Now going to queue up that 5th batch. So he has now got 10 spears out, or he's about to have 10 spears out, which is 5 more than what your enemy could possibly have at this time. Because if your enemy wanted to have the same amount as you, they would need to have to drop a second barracks, and they'd also need to pay double the food and double the wood to get it. So it's pretty insane exactly what we're talking about here. Now, one of the things to note is that these spears are going to be easily able to burn through this outpost. So Viper is not only going to be losing 100 wood here and 150 wood for the dock, as well as all of the fishing boats that are here. But in addition to that, he's also going to be giving over double bounty. So this is part of the reason why I like to bring out just an extra few villagers here, so that way they're going to be firing off more arrows. And you can see just how fast it is burning through. Khan going to get found out over here towards Viper's base as well. But you can see, without even losing a single unit at this point, it looks like Lucifron's going to be able to set this bad boy on fire. Probably a single spear does manage to go down, so Viper going to be able to get that, but still going to be losing this expansion, and that's why it's so important, in my opinion at least, to, if you're going to be, you know, pushing out here, looking to bring out a couple of villagers with you. Even though you take that idle time, you've got a lot more potent of a hold. The other alternative is that you drop a barracks out here as well, and then reinforce your outpost. Otherwise, you can obviously drop a barracks inside your own base and then look to enforce your outpost, but this is a difficult thing because Viper would have to then scout that out as well. Lucifron going to spot the villager doing a little bit of a heal up here. And looking to push it off. He does push it off. Doesn't go too far away though. He's going to be chasing it back with the Khan. Villager now coming back. And Lucifron really just... Viper's just trying to buy time here. All he wants to do is get this junk out. If Viper gets this junk out, he's going to be a very happy camper. He does indeed. At 6 minutes now, he is going to be able to hold this. So managing to get this up here in time is actually going to be quite strong for him. This was an oversight that I had. I failed to realize that Viper aged up. I didn't point it up, but going to be losing his villager here. If he can light this one up, I think he's going to be okay, and that's what it looks like he might be going for. I think he just wants it to get lit up. So do we see a villager going to come out from Viper, from his base, to heal this? That's what I would expect. You can see it has been lit up, so the bounty has now gone over. He does need to heal this up because otherwise it will burn all the way down. And there's that villager that's now going to be coming over. So look, Viper has succeeded. This is a success for Viper. Why is it a success for Viper? He did not lose his dock. That is it. Now, obviously, there's been a double bounty that's been picked up here. So Viper is still, you know, he's down. But he's not as down as you would expect him to be. Fishing boats now need to get out of the way. They've managed to get out of the way as this dock may actually go down. This villager came out a little bit too late. I spoke about it earlier. It's down to 50 HP. He's going to get 2 more torches onto it, but is it going to happen in time? 1 HP. It was on 1 HP, and it does go down. Viper didn't get that villager out in time, just a little bit too late. And now it means he's going to have to drop another dock. It's another 150 wood, another building that could potentially get burnt down. And so even though Viper did manage to get himself ahead, that was a villager, I think. That was a spear, I apologize. Even though Viper did manage to, you know, survive for the most part, he was complacent. And he moved his junk away. It was up towards the north. He needed to leave it down here on the dock, and the dock did go down. Now we check out his opponent. So Lucifron, sitting right now on 9 fishing boats, doing a wonderful job, and you can see it actually looks like he might be heading towards the castle age, but do note, he's got a lot of villagers still on wood at this point in time, so sitting at the moment on 36 villagers. Half of those villagers are actually on wood, or more than half. So going to have double light junk coming out now, so we don't have a double dock for him, but definitely Lucifron is not happy that Viper has got control of the water, or at least got control of his part of the water. Now, these light junks are actually quite strong in comparison, so they've got an extra +1 attack, or rather an extra +2 attack, but a -1 armor. So that it's the 3 armor versus the 4 or versus the 2 armor, and then on top of that you've also got the junk, which I think fires. So it's got 4 burst attacks versus the light junk, which has got 3 burst attacks. So technically I think the junk is better, but Viper actually not looking to heal up his light junk. I think Viper's probably going to be losing water here. And you got to ask the question, okay, so Viper knows that it's only a matter of time until he loses water like this, and he was trying to hold. This is basically just trying to delay, and that's exactly what he did until he was able to get that junk out. And so the question is Viper now able to transition this into a meaningful outcome for himself? So what would be a meaningful outcome? A 2 town center boom, and a meaningful outcome or a meaningful impact from this dock would have meant that he would have been able to fulfill villager production or potentially a dynasty out of that. So we'll take a look over at Viper. We'll see exactly what he's got going on. So he's got his main Barbican. He's got his town center. He's got a single blacksmith with no upgrades as of yet. He's gathering up here to the north with both wheelbarrow and his improvement survival techniques, but nothing else really. A single archer out, a couple more archers going to be looking to harass, so probably putting a bit of damage on. We didn't actually spot that out, or at least I didn't spot that one out, but he is going to be losing this. And keep in mind, his enemy has invested significantly in the water, in these light junks. Now, these light junks, they're not expensive. You know, they're quite cheap, 120 wood, 90 gold, but still, you know, it's a decent investment. You're talking 210 resources each there, so a total of 630 resources, and, you know, you're denying Viper a lot, which is important, and you need to do that, but at the same time, there is still a nice little timing window. Viper now going to be clicking up to the next age, going up with the astronomical clock tower, as you would expect him to be going up with. It is, in my opinion, an S-tier landmark. There's only a few S-tier landmarks, and that is definitely one of them. Astronomical clock tower is just hands down one of the greatest landmarks in the game, at least in the current meta, the way that it is trending. But we'll talk a little bit more about that in another video. Viper now going to be pushing in, trying to get out a couple of villager kills, but those villagers seem quite strong. They do have that +1 armor, which is what makes them so tanky. So only 4 damage coming out from each of those shots. It would have taken 13 shots or 3 volleys from each of these archers to actually kill those villagers. And look at all the villagers in here. 34 villagers sitting in here, just hanging out, having a great little time as those archers do move around. And Viper's going to try his best to spot out what his enemy is up to. But we'll take a look now at his opponent. So his opponent is still in that second age, yet to age up at this point, yet to click up, but his economy is quite strong. 52 villagers right now, and I think he's going to be quite happy with the way that it's going so far. Just the fact that he's able to maintain control of the water, and look at this! Viper doing another little bit of a cheeky expansion, and oh my lord, we've got an explosive junk coming in. Oh, we've got an explosive junk coming in. Is he just going to go straight for the economy? If he does, that's actually a pretty smart move. 60 wood for each of these bad boys. There's 5 of them. That's a total of 300 wood. He's going to be able to get at least 4 of them. 4 of them do go down. That's a pretty decent trade considering an explosive junk. I mean, it's 240 resources as well, so you're basically talking a 1-for-1 there. The only difference is that you got training time, 29 seconds versus 20 seconds. It's going to take time for him to sort of throw those resources back in there, but he's, you know, that's, hey, you know what? I'd take that trade every single day of the week. That's pretty darn good. Explosive junk now going to be popping out and potentially looking at hitting up these light junks, and I think he actually realizes it, and Lucifron's moved that away, so got to be careful here. It looks like the demo's going to come out, gets the explosion off, hits the first one, does a lot of damage. Second one doesn't receive that much damage. Going to get healed up, taking out that archer on the way that we'd mentioned before that was just providing that light line of sight. And we'll have a look now over at Viper and see exactly what he's up to. Do we have any of those Springalds out? Yes, we do. Viper going for a very fast Springald build here. Actually going to be hitting his Dynasty as well. So going for a little bit of a delayed Song Dynasty for anybody wondering about the Chinese, about the way that they work. So they have this system called the Dynasty system. They have access to every landmark available to them. So, you know, like if you're playing the English, you can choose between the Abbey of Kings or the Council Hall. And that's it. It's a choice. Once you've made that choice, those 2 landmarks are mutually exclusive. But for the Chinese, their landmarks are not mutually exclusive. You can actually make as many landmarks or, you know, as you like, really. So these are both age 1 to age 2 landmarks that have been constructed. And he now enters a dynasty, which is going to actually put him into a new sort of phase, which grants him new improved bonuses, including things like reducing the villager train time. So if we go have a look at the Mongol town center, the Mongol town center is actually going to take 20 seconds to make a villager, but the town center for the Chinese player is only going to take 13 seconds because he's in that dynasty. So he won't be in that dynasty all game. Well, that depends how long this game is. There's 4 different dynasties that you can access, and each one of them has bonuses, but once you leave a dynasty, you lose its bonuses and graduate onto the next one. Speaking of onto the next one, we've got Viper, who's now moved onto the War Junk. So the War Junk is essentially the arrow ship killer. Gonna have a bit of a difficult time now as this explosive ship, double explosive ship, gonna be taking this out 100%. First one comes in, second one in, and both of them go down. So a nice little trade there. Springle doing its best to actually clean up all the archers on the back line. Has he got the movement speed upgrade for this? I don't think he does, but it doesn't matter. I think he's actually going to be able to run down these units without too much of a hassle, as he now kills the final one, and Viper having a fine time just cleaning up those 9 archers with a single Springald. I do like it very much from him. Now going to be expanding out, dropping down this second town center. A bit of a late town center for Viper. He is known to be quite the boomer when it comes to Age of Empires 4, not just in general, but in AoE 4. So loves to boom. Has got enough resources in here for a 3rd town center if he really wanted to. Let's have a look and see whether he decides to throw that down. If I'm him, I'm probably throwing it down. You know what? What's the difference between 2 and 3 town centers? Probably not a lot. I mean, when you are cranking vills out that fast, it's probably quite a bit. Just to give you guys an idea, with this this villager bonus, it goes from the equivalent of 2 town centers, which he's got right now, up to 3 town centers. It's a little bit over 3. When you drop that 3rd town center, that takes you to the equivalent of 4.5 town centers. which is kind of big when you think about it. Like, that is big numbers, dude. Can you imagine dropping 4.5 town centers? Well, I mean, it's kind of hard to split a town center in half, but imagine, you know, 5 town centers and then training a villager only half the time out of 1. But you guys get my point. There's a lot of economy? There's a lot of economics that Viper has to consider when he's making decisions like this. So not going to be dropping that 3rd town center, at least not at the moment. We take a look at his opponent now, obviously reaching the 3rd age. He's got that step redoubt out. Now, this step redoubt is going to be offering him a significant amount of gold. You see that gold that gets popped up there? It's always going to be a multiple of 15. And the reason why is because when it gets dropped off, it actually gets multiplied. They take that gold that gets dropped off and then they times it by 50%. And then they add that. Well, technically, they times it by 150% because you get 1.5 times that bonus. And now we do have that 3rd town center that I alluded to earlier. So Viper going to be looking to drop this down in between a stone mine and a gold mine. I believe that's called a rock and a hard place. But undoubtedly, he's going to be absolutely fine with this. If we have a look at his opponent, majority of his army is on water. I say that, but there's not a lot of it on water. He's got a couple of spears out here towards the north, and not a lot is going on, but I tell you what, there's a lot of barracks in here, and now Viper actually was moving his scout over to the enemy's side and did spot out. I'm assuming he would have spotted out all of these. The scout line of sight is quite large. So highly likely that he has spotted out these Raxes. He's got to know what his enemy is up to. So men-at-arms, spears, that's the name of the game. And the question is, how is Viper going to hold on to this? Now, I can think of a couple ways that Viper can hold on to this. Personally, I would be going for Springalds, of course, but I would also be gathering up stone. And what I would be doing with the stone is just dropping down these little tiny segments of walls. So you could just drop one right here. Okay, just, I think it's 45 stone it works out to be. And you put a stone tower on that bad boy, and it provides enough area of effect or coverage that it would cover all of these buildings from potentially being sieged through its own Springald, because they've got this built-in Springald. And then you could go and you could throw in another one, like maybe down here as well, facing up in this direction, so it covers that town center. Or if you really wanted to, you could sort of like pack them in around this area, and then if your opponent pushes in, they're just going to get punished so severely by those. And you can always move around them to line of sight your enemy as well. And there's a lot of great things that you can do with those stone walls, but definitely I'm looking forward to seeing that come out a bit more in the meta. We did see the Mister actually use that quite successfully in the game against Viper. But Viper had a little bit of a counterplay up his sleeve, as now, once again, Viper looking to counterplay. And Khan going to be coming in. Khan making the wrong decision, taking advantage of his fast speed, but actually going to get shut down here. And there she goes. So Khan, yeah, a little bit of a tough call right there, my Khan. But unfortunately, these sheep, you know, this is, you know, people joke about the nest of bees, but the nest of bees has got so little damage, it didn't even kill these sheep. Like, there you go. If you're wondering, does the nest of bees need a buff? Look at that. Look at that. It literally didn't even kill the sheep. The sheep gets out alive against the nest of bees. That is just terrible. It is just... You gotta wonder. You gotta wonder. Now, speaking of wonder, Lucifron definitely doesn't wonder where his enemy is, as the Springalds... Look at all the Springalds coming out from his side. Jeez Louise, that's a lot of Springalds. Chokunu in here as well with the crossbows, looking to sort of mix that up a little bit, but all of these men-at-arms are going to be absolutely fine as they begin to diverge, or converge rather, on the enemy units. Springald definitely just going to have no trouble taking that one out, as now those final Springalds from the Viper look to try and make their way out, but they're going to have a bit of a tough time as the Springalds over from Lucifron are going to find them well and truly before they get a chance to even escape. Viper going to try his best to get some shots off here, but it looks like he's going to be losing quite a bit of units there. So losing in total 3 siege units, including the expensive Nest of Bees, which is 50% more expensive. And also losing just a couple of Chokunu as well as crossbows here. But I do like this composition. I actually theorized with China. This was quite a few weeks ago. I said, hold on a minute. If I make Chokunu, which are really good at just like... They're good against everything, but not like... They don't specialize in killing anything. And then you got the crossbow, which deal like with all of the armored units. And then you made Springald, which would deal with any siege. Hypothetically, you should be able to beat any army, right? Like, that sounds like a pretty good composition. And that's exactly what we see Viper going for here. My fear is that what that doesn't take into account is that if your enemy just goes mass men-at-arms and Springalds, is that they can just run over the top of you. You're going to need something to hold them off. So I'm thinking probably the best bet is a castle right here, but it feels a little bit too late as this push is coming in right now. Viper would lose a lot of villagers if he did go for that. He does have a pretty nice opportunity back here, actually, to drop a castle if he wanted to. I think he can get through these trees. They do look like stragglers, so he shouldn't have any issue cutting those down. He does have enough resources to drop that castle, so I would expect it to be dropped, any second now, or at least hope for it to be dropped any second now. Viper now trying his best to fall back against the siege. You can see the Springalds have got that extra little bit of movement speed. That town center falls so damn quick. He doesn't, not even in a position now to sort of hold on to it, as we spot Viper doing his best to try and repel the attacks from his enemy. Springalds on the back line, and then the Chokunu trying to soak up the majority of that damage on the front line. Crossbows falling back. Those Springald numbers have really dwindled now for Viper, as there's more than 7 Springalds that remain for his opponent. A single farmer goes out to just grab some wheat and gets shot in the back with an arrow to the leg, it looked like. Very difficult spot for Viper now as that Khan moves in and looks to reinforce these units. And you got to wonder where that castle is. Viper needed to drop it sooner rather than later, and now it finally goes up. It looks like it might be a little bit too late. Jojo probably going to be having to make a reference here at some point. But Viper definitely holding on for dear life. The score doesn't look that pretty right now for Viper, but actually bringing out the crossbows, the secret counter to the Springalds. They do very effectively as long as there's no front line. You can see them moving up, and now they're going to have a bit of a tough time as those Springalds manage to almost one-shot them. I think it's going to be 2 shots for them to go down. But now that keep is going to be holding on for dear life, getting that Springald emplacement up. I'd love to see just a couple of towers out here as well from the Viper. Just with that Springald emplacement would really help him out in this position while he continues to remass those Springalds. It's unfortunate that his Clockwork Tower is a little bit in the line of fire here as well. Any potential siege that comes out of this may just get one-shot by these Springalds if Lucifron is going to be quick enough to catch it. So we'll have to wait and see. We'll check in on the base of Lucifron. We'll see exactly what he's up to. He's got some pastures back here, plenty of barracks as well. We'll take a look. He's got 4 barracks, well, rather 4 docks and 5 barracks. So a lot of production there for him. Now going to be looking to push in. You can see him trying to get those shots off on the Clockwork Springald. Doesn't look like he's going to be able to connect them. And that Springald now coming out from the main keep. You can see it firing down on the units. I think they're focusing down the battering ramp at the moment. And I just love to see just a couple more towers in here from Viper would help him hold off on this angle. Keep these villagers a little bit further, or a little bit alive is probably the best way to say it. But now that those Springalds going to be helping, providing a little bit of sustaining fire, and that other Springald going to be coming out right on the front line. Bit of a difficult spot for Viper because he is getting his production eaten up here. Viper trying his best to hold on now and continuing to suffer at the hands of his opponent. We look at all the line of sight right now being provided by this Khan. Absolutely ludicrous how much line of sight this bad boy provides. And we'll try our best to see the majority of the battlefield here. And Viper trying to claw his way back into this. Lucifron once again sitting here with 2k gold. That is a huge amount of gold. A landmark for Viper going to be going down. So it sounds like he's destroyed that all-important landmark, the Barbican. At least I think that was already destroyed. Was that a second landmark that was destroyed? Surely not. I don't think there's any other landmarks. But Lucifron still going to be fishing up as well. Has a huge amount of fish. I think he's actually exhausted all the fish in the rivers. So no more fish for him. Viper going to be trying to hold on right now. And the question is Viper going to be able to hold on right now? This is such a difficult spot for him. We do a quick villager assessment. 76 villagers for Lucifron. Viper sitting on 82. So despite having 3 TCs, he's only on 6 villagers more than his opponent. And you know, the crazy part for me is if this castle, this keep had just come up 10 seconds earlier than what I had said on this front line, I feel like Viper would be absolutely fine in this position. He would have held. The Springalds would have been safe. He would have been absolutely fine. He would have mitigated all the pushes. And I think he'd probably still be holding on to all 3 town centers as that second one does drop down. Looks like that Springald's going to get focused down. Indeed it does. And this is a consequence of unfortunate placement for the Viper when it comes to his Clockwork Tower. I'm sure at the time it seemed like the right place to put it, but in hindsight, obviously looking back, you know, hindsight's 2020, all that kind of jazz, you can't really control where this pops out. So even if you rally your Springald over here, it's still going to pop out in the front. It's going to have to walk all the way around like that. And you'll watch as it happens. He's not going to have the option to do anything with it. As the Springalds, there it is. It pops out and he's going to retarget them immediately. Well, he doesn't because he's got Springalds back over here. But you can see just how quickly it goes down. And so that begs the question, you know, should it be placed a little bit further back towards the main town center? Viper now looking to try and take a bit of an engagement here, force his enemy underneath his castle, but he's doing a pretty decent job of avoiding it. Lucifron is playing this immaculately at this point. The majority of his army continues to remain up. You can see him reinforcing with these Springalds on the back line, having an absolutely great time. And Viper's actually stopped training his Springalds. Now, that might be because he doesn't have any gold, or it might just be because he knows that any Springald that does come out of here is going to be dead meat. So how do you place this you know, a little bit further back, like right over here. This would be the perfect spot for it just here. It's within, you know, range of the Imperial Academy, so it gets buffed up with that 2x bonus. You know, the castle would have had a great spot there as well. He'd still be able to get units out and still be able to build on that mass, but unfortunately at the moment, it means that he's essentially unable to really do anything. So I guess the question then needs to be asked, is the timer just ticking for Viper at this point? Is he just waiting this game out? He sits at the moment on 78 villages. We check in with Lucifron, who sits on 82, so he's now surpassed him. He's going to continue creating those villages. Look how many villages he's got in the queue. He doesn't care. He's absolutely fine. He's just going to keep making villages all game, it really seems. They're going to continue sieging down that astronomical clock tower, and once that clock tower does go down, China is in a very, very difficult spot. The primary reason being they can make siege, but it's going to be siege that feels really, really bad to make. Speaking of siege now, double siege workshop on the backline for Viper. He feels like his only way back into this is through Springles, and just like, it feels terrible as China to be using siege workshops for any of your siege. I mean, you can use them for the techs, but to use them for the siege, it just feels bad. We see the boiling oil now coming out of that castle as well, as his opponent Lucifron looking to move in underneath this castle and try and finish the game, try and clinch the victory. We see the Springles moving down around the south of that castle, that keep, and holding on, trading out there with a couple of the crossbows, and at the same time on the back line, we've got more men-at-arms just dropping down those Springles in the middle of the fight. The majority of Viper's Springles have now been picked off. There's 5 here that remain for Lucifron, as Lucifron now burns that building, gets it done on fire, and that keep looks like it's going down. Villagers now going to get pulled for Viper. He really knows that it's do or die. Those villagers are going to be coming out, looking to probably get a heal off on the corner, and we see they are tapping themselves away, doing their best. They're trying to hold on right now. We see that keep is getting back up to HP. It looks like it might be up to about 35-40% at the moment, but he's lost so many villagers doing that. So many Springles on the back line as well, and you really got to ask the question, is Viper down and out? You can see that the score is now begin to climb to 2,000 ahead, and Lucifron looks like he might just be sealing out this game, and it really begs the question, was there anything that Viper could have done to stop this end? Was there anything he could have done to change the outcome of this game? And I really think, had he gone for that early keep, he would have been in a much better position. He did have plenty of resources available to him when that happened. At the moment, he's sitting on only 71 stone, but I feel like at that point in the game, he was still at a point where he potentially could have won. If he had just dropped that castle down, even, you know, you throw it down straight away. You're going to lose villages, sure, but you're China. You get those things up real quick. Just throw 20, 30 villages at that bad boy. It's going to get up. Sure, you lose villages, but hey, you're 3 TCs. Don't worry about it. At least you don't die. And now he's lost his 2 TCs. Looks like he's going to be losing his castle here. And once this castle goes down, I suspect the good game is going to get called, because I don't think there's any way that Viper's going to be able to hold this. Men-at-arms now on top of his Springles. This is never a good sign right here. Double Springles going to be coming out, but you can see the men-at-arms just doing their best to get it down. Viper not even able to pay attention. He's got so much going on as the villagers try their best to heal up. We see the burning oil once again coming out. It is a 9.5 second cooldown. It dries. It comes out very, very quickly. So you've got to be careful. The longer it stays alive, there it comes again. Going to be burning out those men-at-arms, doing plenty of damage. I think 31 damage it does to those bad boys, and those villagers continue getting inside. And the question is, how much longer can Viper hold? Because I feel like at this point he is down and out. 48 villagers remain for him. He has had a mammoth task in front of him, a marathon task in front of him, and I think that task has just been a little bit too big for him today. The Mongols are incredibly strong. Lucifron is absolutely no slouch, and it looks like Viper has finally tapped out. Ladies and gentlemen, if you've enjoyed this game from the Viper, make sure you check out his YouTube channel. I'll leave a link in the description as well as in the pinned comment. Make sure you go say g'day, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.